In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Shalom, dear friend. It's so wonderful to be with you today. My name is Natalie Blackham, and this is In the Last Days TV program. We have today David Nekrutman. I can say your name very nicely.
Excellent.
Now.
That's really, really good.
We are friends. We want to speak especially today about the Christian and the Jewish relationship, where we are at, where we were, where we are going, maybe a bit or so. And so let us start now. Thank you, David, again to come today.
Pleasure.
This is great. David is coming from Netanya, which is not always easy for the traffic in the morning.
That's true.
Yeah.
But God gave me sort of Elijah's chariot, and I got here pretty quick.
Very good, very good. So we were speaking a bit before the program, and what you were saying, sometimes the program, there is some very good insight even before the program. So we're trying to give you all the things that we're speaking about. And I was speaking with David, like my family was Catholic, and we came into the charismatic renewal. And I could see, and not a lot of people know that, sometimes you need to think this and that and look in the history, what God has been trying to say. And so I was speaking with David saying how during the charismatic renewal, which was starting in the 70s in America, and it came also in France, which was a miracle.
Right.
And we were singing some Jewish songs, and I think God was starting to snap, and trying to say, hey, Jesus might have even say, I'm Jewish. Can you see that?
Right.
And we didn't understand. And for us as a family, it was at the end of the 90s. So it's a long time. It's like almost 30 years after all the beginning that we started to understand, okay, now we have to try to find out more about the Jewish people. And I was speaking with a friend Monday, and again, we're like Jews and Christians together, and I was saying, Jews are afraid, but you need to know that Christians are afraid too. And so we are walking and things are happening.
Right.
So I know you've been, sorry, I'm speaking so much right now.
It's okay, it's okay. It's your show, right?
But it's like Sharon Sanders is one of the co-founder of Christian Friends of Israel. There was a
major conference, their 30th anniversary celebration. I was asked to talk about has Jewish-Christian relations advanced? Mm-hmm. And I started off saying, if you're still doing Israel flag-waving ceremonies 20 years from now, then we have failed in the Jewish-Christian relationship. There has to be an advance. Of course, Israel's support for, Christian support for Israel, definitely a major movement in Christianity, albeit small within the overall Christendom, but you're talking about millions of people who have a deep heart and sincerity to support for Israel, and that takes place in a variety of ways. Number one, praying for Israel, which is number one, and then people sowing to Israeli charities, even some people actually making a visit here. Mm-hmm. I think it's a miracle that even Christians make a visit here, even though for people who are probably watching this program, they would say, of course you go to Israel, right? But that's not the normal thing for a Christian to do in their lifetime. And they're not going to make a pilgrimage or a visit to Israel to enhance their faith coming here. For some reason, there is a disconnect between their faith and actually coming to Israel to enhance that faith, because I think Jerusalem has been spiritualized to such an extent that you don't need to visit the actual place of the birth of Christianity. So I said, I think it shocked the audience when your first statement is, if 20 years from now you're still doing an Israel flag ceremony, we failed, because at the end of the day, there are people in Israel. There's something called Judaism. There's Jewish people.
And they are real.
And they're real,
yes.
and we have in common the same issues that Christianity faces as a religion, vis-a-vis secularism and radical elements within certain other religions. And these affect each other's faith communities. So, I'm not a theory on page. I'm not something to be used as a means to someone's agenda on their ends of day theology. So to me, it's very important that if you're in this camp called Christian Support for Israel, then there has to be somewhere where you take the move from doing the slogans, from Genesis 12:3, and I am your Ruth to your Naomi, and this is a time as such as this from the book of Esther. I have come to the point that I can write a speech for anybody from the Jewish community coming to a Christian celebratory event for Israel, and they'll get hallelujahs and amens. But if I'm already at that point to do that, then there's something wrong, because that means we're not fundamentally interacting with one another. And of course, as an executive director for the Center for Jewish Christian Understanding and Cooperation, I'm looking for the next stepping stone. Where can we find those commonalities to talk with one another? And again, it's okay to have differences, because Judaism and Christianity are different faith communities trying to express their understanding of covenant. But we need to have the interaction. So for me, Jewish-Christian relations vis-a-vis the Jewish community and the evangelical community specifically. And
I agree with that, but at the same time, I can see that God is moving, not even in the evangelical. And I know is the most and is the majority, but like coming from a Catholic background, and I can see that some Catholic, there is also the Père des Bois, I don't know if you know about him, and he's like, there is some people, and like, we need to learn how to speak with Jewish people, we need to learn even as Christian. I mean, like, again, it's like another subject, but like, some Christian, now the wars have been down between the Catholic and the Protestants, and I hope, funny enough, that is what is going to happen between the Christian and the Jews, that we saw wars, I know not everywhere, but like the Catholic and the Protestant are not killing each other anymore, and they were before.
Well, 100%. Internal Christianity issues were really prevalent even 100 years ago, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I think Catholics, what they have done on a theological level, and that took the guts of Pope John Paul the 23rd, John Paul II, you have Pope Benedict, you have Pope Francis now, all their documents that have been officially endorsed by the Church, and the visits to Israel. There has been a 170-degree turn in the Catholic Church. Relations have never been better. But that's on the academic, on the higher up end of the Church. If I would say to you that the average Catholic feels the way that Pope Francis does, the answer is obviously no.
Because there is all the luggage.
Of course.
And all the tradition, and yes.
I don't think there's ever going to be, in the next 10 years, 5 to 6 million people doing a day for praise or a day to prayer for the peace of Jerusalem within the Catholic movement, because it's very much a top-down organization, right? And it's very hard to do a grassroots type of stuff. We're in the evangelical community because you don't have a pope, right? And each is their own pastor with their congregation. Even in movements of Calvary Chapel and Assemblies of God and Forest Square, those individual pastors, even though they're beholden to the organization, they're still shepherding their own flock and dealing with their own issues. So, but in the evangelical community, it's very much a grassroots movement. I mean, Pastor Hagee has done amazing with Christians United for Israel, and having that ability to go ahead and organize Christian support for Israel is unprecedented in the Christian support for Israel history. Now, the question is, if people have been doing this for 10, 20 years and been praying for Israel, that camp, where are they vis-a-vis the Jewish people? Because it's going to take some time for those people who have just been recently introduced by a calling of God to stand with Israel to get to the point that they're going to actually see Judaism as a valid expression of covenantal faith and live in mystery and tension that how do we work this out, but yet we advance our common cause together to bring God's kingdom of heaven here down on earth. How do we do that together? That does take a long time for many Christians as well as Jews. Believe me, Jews are not standing on the sidelines waiting for Christians to, okay, I'm ready for the relationship, let's do this together. All right? There are many Jews who are very fearful of Christian support for Israel because what is the agenda? at the end of the day? It's a common question I always get all the time. Aren't you doing this because you want to convert us? Aren't you doing this because you want to bring Armageddon?
It's on both sides.
It's on both sides. And so it's going to take some time, especially for the Jewish people, a little longer maybe for the Jewish people because of the historical memory of Christian anti-Semitism towards the synagogue and horrific acts. So we live with that memory right here on our shoulders.
Yeah.
It's not like some type of calendar date that we mark and say, okay, we remember that day. We're remembering now. So it's a little hard with the open wounds of third or fourth generation family members who came from the Holocaust, right? This is, but right now I think it's sort of ripe for the people to get together and start talking. Rabbi Riskin, again, opened up the first Orthodox Jewish center in the entire world to theologically and religiously dialogue with the Christian world. Right now, he's taking a hit because of that, of willing to embrace that relationship. The chief rabbinate is using that as an arsenal, as a way not to renew his position as chief rabbi in Efrat. Thank God Rabbi Riskin is 75 years old. There's a sort of an automatic renewal process at the age of 75 if you wish to continue in your position of chief rabbi, that you can do that for the next 5 years. Rabbi Riskin is like 40 years old in the way he operates, even though he's 75, so God should give him life to 120. But because of his bridge building efforts, it's being effected right now to actually do the automatic renewal for being the chief rabbi of Efrat.
Which is interesting, because when you read it, I know that is one of the things is that, but like the newspaper are not speaking too much about it, which is quite interesting. They don't want to make it like it's a big deal.
Right.
But I know the reality.
Right, because the major issue right now is there are 350,000 Israelis who came over from the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
In Jewish law, in Orthodox Jewish law, if your mother is Jewish, then you're Jewish. But if your mother is not Jewish, then halachically, Jewish law-wise, they're not Jewish. So you have a lot of people who came over to Israel under the law of return, which basically says if you have a quarter Jewishness, if one of your grandparents is Jewish, then you can become an automatic citizen for the state of Israel. But doesn't mean that halachically, Jewishly, according to Orthodox Jewish law, that you're Jewish.
So for the weddings and everything.
So here you are. You have people who are marrying, right? And technically, one is not halachically Jewish, and one is halachically Jewish. It can cause a major division within the nation of Israel. So what do you do with these? What do you do with 350,000 people? Do you make Judaism as an option of lifestyle for them? How are you making these rules within a Jewish law format that's more embracing to bring people who wish to adopt a Jewish lifestyle? So this becomes a major issue between how Rabbi Riskin thinks and those in his camp, saying that these type of conversions should be done by the local rabbi of the city who knows the couple, who interacts with the couple and sees their sincerity that they wish to adopt a Jewish lifestyle. Where the central authority, not knowing the couples personally, end up saying, you know what, well, we're going to determine. And sometimes they have actually reversed conversions. These people went through a whole entire process for years to adopt a Jewish lifestyle, only to be facing, okay, they're not Jews again. And it's power. So this is sort of the major issue that's happening right now. In addition, that Rabbi Riskin actually appointed a woman as a spiritual guide for an Israeli city. That's the first time that's happened in never in the Israeli history, modern day history of Israel. So these are things that are sort of in preventing Rabbi Riskin to be automatically renewed in his position of chief rabbi. But one of them is the bridge building efforts for the Christian world.
But this is interesting because, again, I mean, you know, this won't have happened if you don't have Israel. And now, like, you are coming back and it's like, you know, it's developing and it's changing. And I think one of the things that we need to know is, like, if somebody make Aliyah, just one person is changing the country. Everybody who is coming here in the country, but like, you see, when I came here in Israel, I felt like everybody was important. And like in my country, France, I remember I had really trouble when I was a student because I was a number. And it really disturbed me deep inside because I wasn't an individual. And it's one thing that I love here in Israel. And I want like is where you are the light of the nations, because so many countries is like people are not taken as a person, like a soul. Do you understand?
Every Jew is a chapter heading right now in the unfolding of Israel's narrative when you come to Israel. If you're a Jew in the diaspora, you're a footnote. Okay? No offense to Jews living in the diaspora, but at the end of the day, having Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel is a phenomenal miracle in our lifetime, proves to me that there is a God. So every Jew that does come is creating another historical moment, because that means their family gets affected. They're growing up a Jewish family in the Jewish state. Remember, there's only one Jewish state in the entire world. All right? It's surrounded by 22 Arab countries, not always friendly towards Israel. And we survive because God's hand is on this land, and God is moving Jews from around the world to make Aliyah, to make their move. I think, since we're talking about the whole Jewish-Christian relationship, I think the Israeli tourism market needs to change their template when it comes to 1.5 million Christians coming to Israel and visiting. If they're still doing the same template of going to the typical Christian sites, and you're going on the bus from 6 in the morning to 10 at night, and you're just going on and off buses, going to this type of site, and then going to this particular store because there's a cut for the guide to go ahead and make money by bringing them there, then we have failed as a nation to have 1.5 million ambassadors for the state of Israel when they go back home. And 90% of Christian tourism has been all about sites and going there and using this template. And I wish that the tour companies would change the way they operate, because it's about a greater cause. It's about people coming here to Israel and actually interacting with the people.
They have to, because I know many people, they go first with the tour because they need to see all the things, and after they done one, they do two, and after they say, it's always the same. Now I'm coming by myself, and I want to connect with the people in the land. Right. And we know many people who just go around, and they go in Jerusalem, and they start to connect with people and say, hey, the people invite them. And we know some very good people now. They are not using the Israel tour. But you're right, because, these people are daring, because it's not always easy to do it this way.
Coming by yourself is a very lonely place to be, and where you're supposed to start, how you're supposed to do that. Yeah.
But I agree, they have to, and I know by experience that many people say now we want to connect with the people who are in the land. Okay, we saw the site and this is good, but now there is people living in the land. Can we meet? Can we do something?
Right, and it doesn't always have to be interreligious dialogue. It can be just like meeting people who are changing the very fabric of humanity. Right, what is Israel doing? Right now there's a popular movement that has been led by major Christian leaders called the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement. And that is terrible, because you think you may be affecting Israeli Jews, but you're really affecting 1.1 million Israeli Arabs. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
There is 20% of this country is Israeli Arab at the end of the day. So any BDS thing is going to affect them as well. In addition, the Palestinian economy is reliant on the Israeli economy. So what you're trying to do in your BDS movement is not really working. And at the end of the day, you really don't, anyone who really is involved in the BDS movement is really not know who we are.
No,
they don't know our narrative.
They've never been
Of course,
here.
it's easy to take propaganda and go ahead and utilize it for, at the end of the day, for what?
Yeah.
Israel is open to negotiations. Israeli public wishes to have a two-state solution as long as there's peace, and peace meaning not a kumbaya. No one's picturing a kumbaya. That we're going to be on a, surrounding a campfire and roasting marshmallows. I think you have to really understand: is the Palestinians ready for statehood? Can they run their own economy? Can they run their economy with Israel and other Arab nations? Are they going to be still reliant on us? And at the end of the day, you need social services, right? There's not major social services. So. I look at this as that, why am I saying this? It's because 1.5 million are here. They're coming. Yet the template is the same. So as there's a fault on the Christian side of things of not moving beyond those people who have been involved in this for years, not moving beyond the Israel flagging ceremony, and that the that the Israelis here don't take serious that they have an opportunity of changing the entire transformation experience for a Christian who is visiting Israel.
There is something also that I realized when we started again to dig into Jewish thinking, is like, you know, we had to change so many things, and we had to throw a lot of our books, which are like nonsense, I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
And this is me, Christian, was saying that.
Okay.
You're not helping, you
I'm
know.
not here to endorse or not.
I know. But one thing that is important is like, there is no doom time in the Jewish thinking.
Right.
There is always hope. And like, truth will prevail at the end of the time, and God wants to bring heaven on earth.
Right.
So, which is like the prayer again of Jesus, like that your kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. It's not doomsday, that you know, he's not speaking about doomsday. And so somewhere the Christian didn't think we are not thinking in the right way.
Well, there's a Greek linear approach to looking at the calendar. Okay, and there's a famous book out there that uses the sabbatical year. I'm not going to name the book or the author, but I think most of your audience members know that there is a book that's using the sabbatical year to talk about a doomsday scenario in the United States. If we're going to talk about any scenario that's going to happen biblically, it's not going to happen in the United States. That may be part of the saga, big part of the big picture, but it's going to happen here. But if you pay attention to a Jewish calendar, there's no such thing as a doomsday scenario. In fact, it's actually a renewal every month with our journey with God. Remember, there's no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday names in the days of our weekly calendar, right? Yeah. We say Yom Rishon, it's the first day. Yom Sheni would be Monday, is the second day. The only name that we have is Yom Shabbat.
That's it.
Right? Which is the day of rest, which is the sanctification, a day of acknowledging God, the Creator, and God, the Redeemer. But in addition to that, we also have every 30 days a renewal called Rosh Chodesh. This is the festival of the new moon. This is the first collective commandment that God gave to His people. You're right. All right? To sanctify the month. That means it doesn't get sanctified until we declare that it is sanctified. That means this becomes a part of our partnership with God. And this changes the whole dynamic of how a calendar is set up, because the 15th day of Nisan, which is the celebration of Passover, right, which is considered the first of all months. Well, that happens because we sanctified the calendar. And when we do that, that's the first day of Rosh Chodesh, and 15 days later we celebrate Passover. Right? So, and we do this as a renewal with God. The biblical feasts are appointed times to meet with God. So the whole entire calendar is actually circular in notion.
With renewal.
With renewal.
So there is hope that
Always.
even things have been bad, things will get better because we are learning our lesson and we are rectifying things. I know, I mean, when we've learned slowly at home, this makes our faith so strong, and like that there is hope all the time, and we need to learn all these kind of things. Which we go back again to the Christian and the Jewish relationship, is that we have in common the Bible, but like you have and I don't like to call it the Old Testament, you have the
Tanakh.
That's it, the Tanakh. You have the bottom one, and we added something there, but we know only this one, and we don't know the basic. There is a revolution that needs to be happening. It is happening, I think, slowly.
Yes.
But we need to have this revolution, and the Christian need it even more. I mean, the Christian need it. The Jewish people, they don't need it so much. But we, as Christian, I'm sorry to say, we need this revolution for people to stay strong in the world, how the thing is changing. You know, you hear about transgender, this and that. Now there is able. I don't know if you heard about that. People who feel bad that they are.
I didn't realize we were going to end up with Bruce Jenner at the end of our program. Okay.
No. God is bringing something new. Shabbat is the day of rest.
Which is a point of renewal. So you can continue to do the work for God during the week. Because all we're trying to do is sanctify God. And you do need the 6-1
You need
formula.
Shabbat.
You need Shabbat in order to continue with the 6 days of work and sanctify God through that week. But again, the sabbatical year is not about doomsday. Sabbatical year is about, this is not my land at the end of the day. We have a license to be here because that is what God wanted us to be here right now. But once every 7 years, I have to say, this is not my land. It belongs to God. That's really what it is. And Jubilee, right, is about ultimate freedom. Because if you pay attention to where it comes from in the book of Exodus, there was this concept of indentured servitude. That means if I owed someone money, I had to, and I didn't have it to pay back, I had to work off that loan, right? But if a person decided, it says this, a person decided to stay, right? No matter what, at the Jubilee, he had to go. Because at the end of the day, if you're created in the image of God, you are supposed to be free to serve Him and not serve any other master. That's what Jubilee is. It's ultimate freedom.
And David, thank you again for coming today.
We're already finished.
Yes,
yeah.
But we will carry on. We are going to do another program on something also very close to our heart. And all who are watching the program, tell your friends, you know, there is something that's happening, Christian and Jews, with the hope of like this renewal, like that there is something happening, and we need to build on this, on the Bible. This is our common thing. So from me, from David, from Martin, from the people here in Israel, we send you blessing, first of all. We say shalom to you, and don't forget, we are living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.